for people who aren't familiar so much with lucha, we always try to make comparisons like, oh, well, this guy was the so-and-so of Mexico. Like we talked about, El Santo was probably like, would you say he's like the Hulk Hogan, basically the father of lucha, kind of?
El Santo was just like his own thing. Like the best comparison to like anything is just like a real life Superman.
Yeah,
but he just wrestles because he's like in a league of his own. Like there's no way to like kind of mortalize him and like compare him because I don't think anyone's ever been as over as he was, even stateside.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely hard to argue. And if people don't know lucha, they don't know the impact that El Santo had on I mean he was one of the biggest draws in the history of wrestling, including Hulk Hogan and people like that. I mean, you could say the same thing about Conan. People in Mexico flocked to Conan and just flooded arenas for him, and he was just that freaking over in his day.
But Conan, you can actually compare. And it's been said like a million times. Conan is Mexican Hulk Hogan. He's the guy that made it interesting. He was the guy. Like when people think back, like Americans think back and watch wrestling, it's like, oh yeah, well, it ain't been the same since Hulk Hogan wasn't there. For Mexican fans, it's like, oh, it ain't been the same since Conan wasn't there.
Yeah,
but
that's
for
true.
Santo, it's just I don't know how to explain it. Like, because he became a movie star. Horrible movies, by the way. Like, there's a couple good ones, but I'm calling a spade here.
Well, I mean, the dude never took his mask off except for one time in public in his whole career.
El Santo's movie career suffered from the thing that everybody thought Rey Mysterio was going to suffer in wrestling. Oh, he's got a mask. We can't see his face. We don't know what he's feeling. Which Rey Mysterio worked over that. And El Santo did too in wrestling. Because, you could tell a story with your body. In acting, that's 90% of an actor's thing is their face. Right. So now you have a guy that you could just see his eyeballs and like the inside of his lips. And he's fighting a mummy.
Well, speaking of, legends and Mexican movies and whatever, the guy we're talking about today, Mil Mascaras, was kind of on the same level as far as like, I mean, he wasn't, and when I say on the same level, he was up there, but he wasn't.
He took his blueprint.
Santo. Yeah, and
he took the blueprint of the Santo and changed it.
Well, he was in a
for
bunch
himself.
Of movies. He was in a bunch of movies as well in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and he did a couple in the 2000s as well. I mean, his most recent films, in 2007 he did Mil Mascaras versus the Aztec Mummy, aka Mil Mascaras Resurrection, and in 2007 he also did a movie called Academy of Doom. In 2015 he did Aztec Revenge. I can't believe he's been doing movies there that long. He's been in a couple movies with Santo and Blue Demon, who is another one. I mean, with El Santo being the top babyface, because I mean that's kind of how he made his living, was as the top drawing babyface in Mexico. Blue Demon was kind of, I mean, did he have any babyface runs like team? Because wasn't he related to El Santo?
Blue Demon? No, I think they were just friends. And the best way to describe if El Santo is Hulk Hogan over, Blue Demon is Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff. Like at one point they tagged together, and then it was kind of like, yeah, like you're over, but this guy's just way more over than you, or right. Macho Man.
Yeah,
that'd be a better equivalent. Like he had all the potential in the world to be the biggest star. It's just the biggest star in the world was already there. So it's kind of hard to be the biggest dog in the yard when the biggest dog's already walking around eating all the food.
Yeah, and Mil Mascaras was always a babyface, correct?
Yeah, like he would do some heelish stuff. Like in Lucha, it's more fluid sometimes.
Okay.
Like you can be I think Chris Jericho said it like he had like a lucha match one time with Dean, and like at the beginning, one was a baby face, one was a heel, and the match went 45 minutes, and like by 30 minutes in, they switched in between the match. So it's just it just really depends, because like Blue Demon was originally just like El Santo's main heel, and then kind of blew up on his own. So now it's like, yeah, he's too big to be the bad guy. Well, let's start tagging them together. And then it's like, all right, well, we're going to put the big belt on Santos. So sorry, Demon, time to go heel.
Well, Mil Mascaras we talked about this before, where we compared him not in the way he wrestles, not in being a big heel, but in kind of what he did in his career, and compared to, like we said, El Santo would have been like a Hulk Hogan, Blue Demon would have been like a Macho Man, Mil Mascaras probably would have been like a Ric Flair, correct? Like he was kind of like right up
like
there near the top.
Roddy Piper.
Well, the reason I say Ric Flair is because for people, I mean, obviously Hulk Hogan made the jump in the 90s to WCW, resurrected his career as a heel and all that good stuff. But for the most part, when you think Hulk Hogan, you think he was the WWF's guy and the hood ornament.
He was the 80s of the WWF.
Yeah. Whereas El Santo, I don't know if he stuck with one promotion, but he never really left Mexico, right?
I mean, he was the biggest thing in Mexico, so I think I think it just didn't matter where he went. Like, I almost want to say he was kind of just like an indie act, and he was just going wherever they like paid him to be, and it just worked for him, because it's literally the biggest star in the world, so you're not going to hold him down. But if you can get him for one weekend, shut up and collect your tickets.
Right, but he was Mexico's guy, like as a whole country. Yeah. Whereas
I don't think he went to like Japan and stuff like Mil Mascaras did.
Right, and that's why I said Mil Mascaras was more of like the Ric Flair, because he was the world traveler, and he was a big star.